as Angelo has mentioned, is Riaz Adam representing the company Advanced Technology Services. Thank you for joining me and my colleagues this afternoon. We are going to have a very practical breakaway session this afternoon because I'm sure everyone, you know, normally after lunch, people are nice and tired and they don't want to hear anything too long and too boring. So it'll be a very practical session in which we're going to discuss and show you how South African universities can transform their campuses into smart campuses using IoT and integrated systems to solve everyday problems that we all face on campus. Universities across South Africa are under real pressure, pressure being increase in student numbers, strained budgets, and trying to make things work with the little that you have. So it becomes a massive challenge to try and do your job in a way that you can produce the outputs that you do require. But on the ground, you also find that you want to try and reach your sustainability goals. All universities have adopted the stance that they need to reduce their carbon footprints, they need to be more sustainable. So in trying to do that, it's very difficult to do it without the right tools and equipment. What you'd find on campus, I mean, like you see on the top there, student growth is a massive problem because, yes, universities are pressured to take in more students. Their throughputs have to be higher than what the intake is. Like I mentioned, you're tightening budgets, and I'm sure most of you sitting here today know very well about the tightening budgets because you get a budget and you have to try and work and produce results at the end of the day that matches your budget. If you go over budget, obviously you have to answer for that. And I think a lot of the colleagues attending the PURCON conference are facilities teams as well as the finance teams. So yes, budgets is your biggest constraint that tends to restrict you in what you are able to do. So the common pain points that universities face is 4 big areas, I would say. Your insufficient space utilization, your resources in terms of water and energy, your student comfort issues, as well as outdated systems. Your space utilizations will refer to your venues being either overutilized or underutilized. Resource wastage would be your water leaks that is not visible to the naked eye because it might be happening underground and you're not aware of it. Your high utility bills in terms of your ESCOM or your electricity charges. Student comfort, I know biggest complaints you get in universities is the venue is too hot or the venue is too cold. I can't concentrate because, or the best excuse I think we've always hear is, I could not pass my exam because the venue was too cold and I couldn't concentrate. You know, so it's small things like that that makes a huge impact, especially for students. And then you get the last part, which is outdated systems. You have systems that work in silos and they don't talk to each other. Data is not flowing between your different systems. So it becomes a massive challenge to try and manage universities or institutions that are almost the sizes of small cities. Let's just take a quick look and see, and you can raise your hand and just indicate which of these areas points more to your institution. Space efficiency. Who feels the university is using their teaching spaces efficiently, or inefficiently, sorry? Okay. Who has had complaints about air conditioning in the last month? Quite a few hands. And who has dealt with leaks that went unnoticed for weeks? These are common issues across the university, and no one university is superior than the rest. All universities, all TVET colleges, all institutions are dealing with the same issues. Reason being budgets, aging infrastructure as well. So it's like a catch-up game that you're constantly playing with. You're trying to fix one thing, you fix that, something else breaks. So it's a constant catch-up game. So just to put it into numbers, and I mean, some of these numbers are shocking. 40% of universities' teaching venues are underutilized, which means that when the scheduling is done and senior management feels, oh, we need to have new facilities because we can't accommodate the students, it's not just that. If the scheduling was done correctly, the venues were utilized properly, you wouldn't need to build new facilities. You would use what you have. Eskom has risen tariffs by 18% last year, and you would feel it even more this year because with the increase that happened, there was a bit of a mishap in the calculations. So what universities have budgeted for in terms of what the utilities would be, they've had to now go and find additional funding to cover the mishap that happened, in terms of the calculations for the tariffs. And then the last part is the water. Apart from water, it's also the electricity. We find that when we on campus, we walk around, we look at things, everything looks fine on the surface. And then at the end of the month, when the water bills come or the electricity bills come, you wonder, how is it so high? We've put measures in place to ensure that we've put signs in the bathrooms, in the residences, in the buildings to say, use water wisely. And I'm sure most of you know, South Africa and Africa as a whole, water is becoming a scarce resource. And, at some point, there will have to be much more stricter measures put in place to conserve the little water that we have. So because it's underground, no one sees it, but through systems in place, you'd be able to know when your systems are actually leaking, when there's ground water leaking into the ground that you're paying for, that is just been wasted. And if you look at all three of these, underutilized space, high electricity tariffs, water leakages, they're all actual real money that the university has to spend in order to keep it going. So we have to find opportunities to try and say, how can we save on these resources? How can we save the budgets and use the budgets for items that is more critical that will benefit the university? So how do we move from the status quo the universities find themselves in now? And how do we find a way to actually benefit? And that's where we try and move away from putting out fires and become more proactive in our operations. The answer lies in combining IoT sensors with integrated workplace management systems. Think of IoT sensors as the eyes and ears of the campus. The sensors can monitor space occupancy. It can monitor water leaks. It can monitor energy usage. It can monitor the air conditioning in the venue. Is the venue too hot? Is the venue too cold? It can monitor almost every single thing you can think of. There's a device to monitor anything. And Archibus, when the two come together, the IWMS system becomes the brain of interrogating the data that has been sent to it. And, sorry, this switched. Yeah, Archibus, the IWMS becomes the brain of interpreting the data that has been sent to it. So the sensors push the data in real time. dashboards produce these things in real time. So when managers are sitting in their desks or there's alerts that come through, it's alerts that are critical to the operation because it's stuff that's happening now and then. It's not stuff that you have to worry about that someone's only going to report in 2 or 3 days' time. So, yeah. I think I'll ask my colleague Wade just to explain how a smart campus connectivity works and how the layouts actually function. Wade?
Sure, thanks. So when we think about a smart campus or smart-enabled campus, it's not just one or two solutions that you need to deploy. There's a number of different technologies at different layers that need to be deployed. The smart aspect of any campus comes from that interoperability, that interconnectivity between all these different technologies, whether that's hardware being an IoT sensor, various levels of data aggregation, up to some sort of reporting tool or integrated workplace management system or IWMS system. These connected technologies are really what give us that holistic picture. Without that holistic picture, we are losing out on a lot of valuable, actionable intelligence. As Riaz said, the sensors end up being the eyes and the ears. I think about my children. My children are still quite young. When one of them do something wrong against the rules in the home, the sibling will run and tell mom and dad, hey, something's going on. If there is no one to report to, if there's no central place to aggregate that information to, things are just going to escalate. And that's, those of you with children, if you don't intervene often, the children will continue to get out of hand and things will devolve into something quite dangerous. Maybe they're playing with fire, maybe they're playing with knives or something like that. This is just an example of how a smart-enabled campus could work theoretically. If you don't have the eyes and the ears in place, being able to report to a central point that you're able then to make a decision on, you're going to have this devolving experience where things are just going to get worse and worse over time, not better. In preparation for this presentation, we were having a look at some of the statistics. In 2023, there was a study done at one of the universities, I won't mention which one, where they did a particular analysis on 3 residences. They found that 9 kiloliters of water were being wasted a day. Now, aggregate that up to a month, to a year, that is an absurd amount of water wastage through taps being left on, unseen leaks, running toilets, simple things. Now, having an IoT solution and a smart campus solution will be able to we will be able to put in thresholds to say, all right, in a residence, what is the expected usage per occupant of water? We build that threshold in. Now, when we are below that, everything's great. As soon as we get above that threshold, there needs to be some sort of alert. And the reason for that alert is so that we can action it. We can go and start investigating and saying, why is this outside of the norm, of the allowable threshold? Is it because there's a leak? Is it because we're experiencing a particularly hot day and students are taking cold showers? These are questions that we can start asking ourselves, but if we don't have that alert, we're completely blind to the situation. So this, again, is one of the use cases of having a smart-enabled campus. Now, on screen, we've got a number of different sensors there. What do you want to measure? What do you want to monitor? What do you want to observe? What do you want to action? Every campus, every university is going to have a few different sets of key focus areas. Maybe as part of your sustainability goals, you want to reduce water wastage. Maybe part of your sustainability goals is you want to reduce electricity usage. What matters to you? Now, what I'm saying is that you don't have to deploy every type of technology, every type of sensor, but focus in on those pain points that are going to speak to you and your strategic objectives within the university. Implement those tools, those eyes, those ears. But that's only part of the solution. Again, we need to have some sort of integrated, interoperable solution holistically, that data has been aggregated up to some point and then reported and alerted. This is where an IWMS system is really crucial, because we can put those data alerts, those alerts coming through from your eyes and your ears, your sensors, and trigger certain workflows. Notify certain people, certain teams to go and action this information. So from a purely technology perspective, it's important that you understand that there's not going to just be one solution that you deploy. And this, from a service provider perspective, is where we partner, and we try as far as possible to bring the total solution. It's important to have that holistic approach to this. Just deploying IoT sensors or smart meters is only part of the solution. But being able to have that entire value chain is critical. So it's important that you bring in all the different teams from the universities, your IoT team, your executives, your operations teams, and identify what are your key focus areas, what technologies can you leverage to meet those goals, and implement a solution that is going to work for you.
Thank you, Wade. I think to add on to what Wade is saying also, I think a critical sensor to have is your occupancy sensor. The reason I say that is because you might find a venue being booked for 300 students, because that's what the course was expecting to enroll, 300 students for the course. During registration, you might find that only 100 students registered for the course. But the lecturer will never go back to the facilities team and say that the venue you've given me is too big. But on the other hand, you would have a class that would have accommodated 200 students, but they have 300 students registered for the class. So at the beginning of the year, you tend to find that classes are overcrowded. Students are sitting on the steps. Students are sitting on the floors because they enrolled for that class and they need to go to it. But if you look next door is practically empty. So unless you have people going around physically counting students in the venues, seeing how many students are in the venues, how many venues are sitting empty, you assume all your venues are fully booked. And that's where the occupancy sensor comes in, because every single lecture, every single day that there's an activity taking place, it takes a snapshot of how many students attended that lecture, and over a period of, let's say, 3 weeks, you got data that you can go to that academic and say, we have to move you into a suitable size venue because your current venue is far too big for you and we need to accommodate bigger classes in those venues. So by having real data, you are able to stand your ground and make those kinds of comments to the academics or to the timetabling committees or however your university operates. But by not having that data, you don't actually have a foot to stand on. And as most of you would know, academics are demigods, so what they say is the word. But if you have physical data to show that we have to move you to accommodate bigger classes, they've got no choice but then to move. Provided the technology that they are using in their facility, in delivering their lecture, is the same in the next venue, they shouldn't have a problem to be able to move through there. So the system can only work in 3 parts. You have your devices, you have your IWMS, and then the nerve center, which is the command control center. A command control center is like the brains or the nerves that this whole operation feeds into. So your sensors would push data through to your IWMS system. Your IWMS system will interpret that data, and your command control center will give you a visual representation of what's actually happening on the ground in real time. Walid, I don't know if you want to just step in here on some benefits of a command control center.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much, Riaz. College to you guys hear me nicely?
Yeah.
Okay. So as Riaz mentioned, from a command control center, reading data from multiple systems and giving you an interactive dashboard view on what is happening on the ground, that is its main function. think about this. You've got multiple venues within your university environment. Some of us are from universities, some of us from TVET colleges. Some of us has never even been inside a lecture room, but we work inside these spaces. We've got office spaces, we've got boardrooms, we've got laboratories. There's a host of different facilities. Each one of those facilities has got equipment, assets inside there. They are functioning in different ways. By no means, from a facilities management perspective, do you have enough people on the ground to be able to man and constantly evaluate what is happening with that. The only time you know when something is wrong is if something goes bang. When something goes bang, it's usually too late. This is where your command control center comes into play. Utilizing the functionality from IoT, your command control center gives you alerts based on what's happening. For example, a water leak. What is a water leak? Why is it important? Hey, if that thing has been dripping or losing water over a week, if there's a big burst water pipe somewhere, you need to know about it right now. Similar to somebody being stuck in a lift, you need to know about those things right now. Similar to the security environment, if something happens, you need to know about it right now. Your command control center has this capability of reading all of this data and giving you those alerts based on the action that needs to take place. So from your IWMS, from your command control center, you are able to deploy the necessary staff with the necessary capabilities or the teams to be able to go and rectify what has happened or what has occurred. Second to that, you are also able to record all of this data and all of these incidents that have happened. Now, what makes that important? From a management perspective, if I was looking at a building, many of us look at it from different aspects because of the situations or the work that we're doing. So, for example, finance would look at it from a financial perspective. Hey, the building is costing X amount. Maintenance is looking at it from, hey, I've got so many assets inside there, my work orders, I've got so many preventative maintenance things that I've got to do. Then you've got different divisions that are looking at it from different aspects. But from a holistic point of view, if I was looking at that building from a facilities management directive point of view, I want to see all of those components because those things make up the building. How many leaks have I had? How many situations have I had? How many times has that aircon failed? Where is that data? It's coming from the IoT, feeding into that, giving you this entire picture where you're able to record, react, and also be available to anything that is happening because the system is feeding back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think also one important aspect, Walid, that you've just mentioned is where's the data coming from? You might find that someone is reporting 3 times in a week that the air conditioning is not working, but yet the sensor is saying the air conditioning is working perfectly fine. The issue there could just be that the person doesn't know how to operate the aircon. It might be a centrally controlled air conditioning system, or it's a air conditioning unit that is managed within the venue. So because of them not understanding how to use the facility, and instead of sending a contractor out to go and repair something that's working, and he's going to then send you an invoice for his time that he went to the venue, inspected the air conditioning, and then comes back to you and say he's fixed X, Y, and Z. You don't actually have proof that that aircon wasn't working in the first place, that he's gone to fix, he or she's gone to fix. But from your reports that the system will be able to give you, you can see, but this aircon's been functioning optimally over the last 6 months, so there's actually no issues with it. It's just someone doesn't know how to operate the air conditioning. So again, you'll be able to save money because you're not wasting resources on technicians going out to site to fix something that is actually working. So let's bring this down now into real life issues. People counters have shown that venues are used, people counters can show you which venues are used and which venues are not used. Smart water meters can show you how much of water you're using, and you can compare that to your bills to see, okay, we've used X amount of water according to the system, we've been billed for X amount, where's the other portion going to? You'd then be able to, because of your leak detections, be able to identify which areas have got leaks in. HVAC system, that's used to balance the controls in the teaching facilities, because a 45-minute lecture or 1-hour lecture, by the time the lecturer gets to the end of the discussion in his course, you might find that half the class is sleeping because that air conditioning is not at the right temperature, and the students are exhausted because instead of being kept comfortable, they're actually being made tired. So real issues actually come to the surface where you can actually see we are not getting good attendance because students don't want to attend this class because they feel this venue's aircon is always on heat, and even though we're in midsummer, it's still blowing hot. So from your dashboard, you'd be able to see that the aircons are in reverse. Instead of blowing cool, they blow in hot air. So giving you some stats or some success stories or real case studies. And this is not just becoming the best practice internationally, but South African universities are also starting to see the benefits of having IoT devices placed into their institutions. And at the end of the day, they are seeing the return on investment because they've laid out that investment, and over time they are now seeing real data come through, and they realize their investments. One university, the data showed that the lecture rooms were underutilized, but at the same time, the executive management was going through a discussion to say, we need to build new facilities because we are taking in more students. So by showing them that actually our venues are underutilized, you don't need to build a new building, we just need to manage our resources better. Water meters, I mean, the sensors can detect, identify the leaks and save you thousands of rands monthly and annually in terms of your water usage. The HVAC system, if that's running optimally, you're saving money again through your ESCOM tariffs or your ESCOM bills, because if a venue is sitting empty, there's no reason why the light should be on in that venue. There's no reason why the air conditioning should be on in that venue. So everything works with the sensors. So if the moment someone enters the venue and it knows that that class is scheduled, it can then take in or switch the air cons on or switch it off if it feels there's no one in there. Now I want to hear from you guys in the audience. And I mean, you can just randomly come up with your answers here. But how many of you, if you were to change one thing or improve one thing in your campus, I call this the big four: the space utilization, resources, student comfort, or outdated systems. Which one of them would be your critical pain points that you would want to attend to immediately? Sarojini? Sorry? Resource waste. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another one? Space utilization. Yeah. Those are two critical areas that fall within this the big four, if you can call it that way. In closing, I'll close with this and say that universities don't need more buildings, bigger buildings. They don't, I know this is going to be contentious, they don't need more staff. They need real data that can prove what is happening on the ground is actually real information that they can, that is coming through the systems. So my challenge to you today is that if you had the real-time insights to understand what's going to happen tomorrow, how much would your university save in the next year by deploying IoT devices and managing your resources? Thank you very much.